I am joined here by Chairman Issa. Thank you for the time. Appreciate it. Things seem to be improving somewhat in Europe, so why hold this hearing right now? Why call Tim Geithner and Ben Bernanke right now?
Well, because at any time, if the dominoes begin falling, one or two can lead to additional governments going down. Right now, we all remember too well that TARP money was taken from the American people, $800 billion, and misspent in some cases. And although things are looking better, the question is, do they have a plan if the credit default swaps fail? Do they have a plan if sovereign debt problems expand beyond Greece? And does that plan include the American people being asked to put another $1 trillion in? Does it include the fact that these banks will fail the stress test if suddenly they're not able to be made whole on debts from sovereign nations? So you put all that together, we simply want, Bernanke and Geithner to come to us and tell us, what about the alternate scenarios? What if their plan isn't correct?
You've seen their testimony already. Do you think they're underestimating the risk to the United States, and more specifically the risk to U.S. taxpayers?
I believe they failed to have a plan B or plan C. TARP was all about bailing out in some way they weren't prepared to, based on something that they said couldn't happen. Now we need to say, obviously, things can happen. What if the alternate scenarios occur? What if, in fact, because it's been a year of Greece being on again, off again, a problem, but Greece is only one of the so-called pigs. You have a European situation in which a domino effect can occur. If it does, American banks become insolvent not because of Greece, but because of all this debt combined. What is the plan to deal with it that does not involve the American people being simply asked to go another couple trillion in debt?
Tim Geithner says he's not planning to go to ask for more U.S. taxpayer funds to bolster the IMF so it can help Europe at this point. But he also defends the U.S. commitment to the IMF at this point. Do you believe Tim Geithner when he says the U.S. isn't going to ask for more money?
Tim Geithner has a long history of saying one thing and ultimately doing another, because I don't plan can change in a matter of weeks. We want to know that they do plan. We want to know what the alternate plans are. So I don't plan to come to you is clearly unacceptable. I don't plan to come to you for these three reasons in these three cases so that I have backup plans the American people can believe in. Ultimately, their plan is that Europe won't fail. If they're wrong, will the American people be on the hook? Will the American banking system be back in the same situation in which they came to us with only a moment's notice to ask for nearly $1 trillion?
Well, let me ask you the flip side of that. Will you and other House Republicans be prepared to step up and perhaps provide that taxpayer funding for the IMF so it could help deal with that kind of dire situation?
We reflect the American people. The American people are telling us no. The American people are telling us that, well, they can't get credit. U.S. sovereign debt has expanded dramatically, and our commitments around the world continue to expand. The American people have less debt today than they did in 2008, over $1 trillion less in mortgage debt. They want to know that there's a plan here in Washington to have less sovereign debt and less exposure. So the answer is no, the American people don't have an appetite for it. As a result, the House of the People should not have an appetite for it.
Do you think the U.S. investment in the IMF up to this point, the support for the IMF, has been a wise investment of U.S. money? Treasury Secretary Geithner yesterday making the case the U.S. has earned money off this. This has been a good investment.
Well, Secretary Geithner has no private sector experience, so he always seems to think that government solutions and government-backed solutions are the right solution. What I'd say is it's had a mixed history over a long period of time, and what we need to do is recognize they're a reality, but ask, did we intend to have a Marshall Plan in the 40s and another one in the 2010s? If we did, we'd better have a lot more money than they're currently allocating.
What's your assessment of Ben Bernanke's performance as Fed chairman, not just on the European situation, but his performance here in the U.S.? There are questions being asked about that. He's defended what he's done, and there are some who would argue he saved the U.S. economy. You've got critics here on Capitol Hill who would argue otherwise.
Well, certainly I would give him a low grade for the first couple of years when he simply ran up all the internal debt, the balance sheet, if you will. When he ran out of the ability to run that up to, if you will, monetize these decisions, he's been more conventional. And I'd say more conventional is where he needs to be. He's got to stop trying to extend this. But I will give you one answer is, if you deserve an A for being independent and an F for being politically involved and injecting the Fed into, if you will, the Obama administration's decisions and being favorable, he gets an F.
He gets an F on that. You do not believe Ben Bernanke's been an independent player?
He is not. He has been more political and engaged, and specifically made statements about what Congress should or shouldn't do when not asked. That's if it's an A or an F, a pass or a fail, independence, he fails.
Let me ask you just the big picture about the sovereign debt situation here in the United States. You've got a budget plan being put forward by House Republicans, by Paul Ryan. Is that a plan you're prepared to support in terms of trying to put the U.S. fiscal picture in a better light?
The moment we get a number from the Budget Committee's vote, we will begin working toward those cuts within our jurisdiction. I expect that's going to be $70 to $100 billion over 10 years, that we're going to have to find ways to make cuts within the federal workforce, which is part of our budget. I do support that. I think the American people want to see federal workers in the federal system enjoying some of the benefits the private sector enjoys, but some of the responsibilities. Right now, we only see the upside. If you're not paid enough in the federal system, they'll pay you more. If you're paid too much, you keep it.
All right, Chairman Darrell Issa heads the House Oversight Government Reform Committee, questioning Ben Bernanke and Tim Geithner later on this morning.